Good morning, Fremont Wildcats, and happy Wildcat Wednesday. Norman and I were hoping to read you a story today, and the story we chose was a story called Extra Yarn, and it was written by Mac Barnett, illustrated by John Clausen. You ready, Norm? All right, here we go, kid. Yep, don't block the pictures. They don't like that. It says, on a cold afternoon in a cold little town where everybody you looked was either the white of snow or the black of soot from chimneys, Annabelle found a box filled with yarn of every color. Okay, Norm? So she went home and knit herself a sweater. And when Annabelle was done, she had some extra yarn. You're killing me, Poochie. So she knit a sweater for Mars too. And then there was still some extra yarn. We don't bite books. That's naughty. And when Annabelle and Max went for a walk, Nate pointed and laughed and said, "You two look ridiculous." "You're just jealous," said Annabelle. "No, I'm not," said Nate. There's Nate and his dog. But it turned out he was. And even after she'd made a sweater for Nate and his dog, and for herself and for Mars, she still had extra yarn. At school, Annabelle's classmates could not stop talking about her sweater. "Quiet!" shouted Mr. Norman. You're the name of the teacher. "Quiet, everyone! Annabelle, that sweater of yours is a terrible distraction. I cannot teach with everyone turning around to look at you." "Then I'll knit one for everyone," Annabelle said, "so they won't have to turn around." "Impossible," said Mr. Norman. "You can't." It's not a very nice teacher. But it turned out she could, and she did, even for Mr. Norman. And when she was done, Annabelle still had extra yarn. So she knit sweaters for her mom and dad, and for Mr. Pendleton, and Mrs. Pendleton, and for Dr. Palmer, and for little Louis. She made sweaters for everyone except Mr. Crabtree, who never wore sweaters or even long pants, and who would just stand in his shorts with the snow up to his knees. "No sweater for me, thanks," said Mr. Crabtree. So she made Mr. Crabtree a hat, and then Annabelle still had extra yarn. "Norman, come here. Come. Good boy. Good boy, come. Are you going to listen? Come on up. Thank you. Yes, that's very nice. Can you come sit? Come on. No, she's not laughing at you.
No, I'm not.
She made sweaters for all the dogs and all the cats and even the other animals too. Soon, people thought Annabelle would run out of yarn. But it turned out she didn't. Sit. Good boy. Stay. So Annabelle made sweaters for things that didn't even wear sweaters. Good boy. Stay. Things began to change in that little town. News spread of the remarkable girl who never ran out of yarn, and people came to visit from around the world to see all the sweaters and shake Annabelle's hand. One day, an archduke who was very fond of clothes sailed across the sea and demanded to see Annabelle. "Little girl," said the archduke, "I would like to buy that miraculous box of yarn, and I am willing to offer you $1 million. Norman, $1 million. "No, thank you," said Annabelle, who was knitting a sweater for a pickup truck. The archduke's mustache twitched. $2 million, he said. Annabelle shook her head. "No, thanks." $10 million, shouted the archduke. "Take it or leave it." "Leave it," said Annabelle. "I won't sell the yarn." And she didn't. So that night the archduke hired 3 robbers to break into Annabelle's house, and they stole the box and took it to the archduke, who set off across the snow and sailed over the sea. This is terrible, Norman. Back to his castle. The Archduke put on his favorite song and sat in his best chair. Then he took out the box and he lifted the lid and he looked inside. His mustache quivered. It shivered. It trembled. The Archduke hurled the box out the window and shouted, "Little girl, I curse you with my family's curse. You will never be happy again." That's terrible. But, can you see where that box ended up? On that little piece of ice? And then the ice breaks off? Look at that. It turned out she was. The end. What do you think, Norm? Would you give this book a recommendation? It didn't taste so good, but the story was great. We hope you all are having a great day, and we miss you tons. Bye.